We are going to be getting this 1996 Honda Elite that we just picked up running. This scooter has been sitting a while and we don't know any of the issues. As you know, as of like 90% of these scooters that we got on the channel, we usually buy them in a really bad condition, or maybe just possibly blown engines or not running. That is most of the time how you're gonna end up getting a good deal on one of the bikes, is it's probably not running or something is wrong. I thought today, while I'm getting this scooter to start, I was gonna show you some of the steps I take and the things I look out for when I'm picking up something that doesn't run, like a scooter, a moped, or a dirt bike or anything of the such. Basically, kind of the same steps you would take with any motor, but more based around a scooter. Like I mentioned, this is a 1996 Honda Elite. This is a 2-stroke engine, 50cc scooter, and it currently does not run. I don't think it doesn't have any power to the battery. And usually when you pick up something like this, it is gonna have a dead battery, so you're gonna result into kickstarting it, and you're gonna spend a bunch of time. This thing right now doesn't sound like it's even getting spark. With this being a 2-stroke engine, it also has oil injection. Typically oil is going to stay the same, unlike gas where it's going to evaporate a lot. We're not going to take the step to drain something right now. As long as it's got some oil in it, we're going to call that good. I'm not going to be riding it super hard right now. It's mostly just to get this thing to run. Just like any engine, there's 3 essential things that we need, and that is going to be compression or air. We need fuel and we need spark. So those 3 things are very easy to check. If you're not getting spark, there's going to be more problems leading to that. If you're not getting fuel, it's gonna be something easy as like a clogged fuel filter, something wrong with the tank, something wrong with the fuel petcock. And then compression could be a whole different thing. That could be the end of the motor, you know. But right now it honestly doesn't feel like it has too much compression, so I'm hoping maybe the spark plug's not in all the way, or there's something related to that. If not, it might just be really low compression because it is a older 50cc scooter and has 3,500 miles on it. Most importantly, like I said, electrical wise, you always want to make sure that you have spark. Otherwise you might spend so much time sitting here trying to start this bike, kicking it over, draining batteries, and the whole time you're not even getting spark with the engine, and you just flooded out the whole engine. First thing we're going to check is if we got spark, and it's very simple. You're basically just going to turn on the ignition, obviously turn on the kill switch, everything you would need to fire up the bike. We're going to pull out the spark plug coil wire off the spark plug, plug another spark plug into it and ground it, and just see if we see spark going to the spark plug. That'll tell us right away that we don't have an issue with any of the electronics. Now, if you don't have spark and everything is on, kill switch is on, you make sure that you have any sensors, maybe a kickstand sensor, anything like that. It could be deeper issues like a CDI box, a spark coil, or maybe just there's no motor ground, there's no engine ground. If it's an electrical issue and you're not getting spark, you're gonna have to look more into that. First things first, we're gonna pop everything we need off to make room. Not necessary, but I went ahead and pretty much stripped this bike down just for visual pleasure, so you guys with the camera can actually see what's going on here. But I was also very curious on the condition of this bike, and I was very surprised to see how much of the clips on the plastics are actually still there and in good condition. So as we removed that battery cover in the seat, we realized a few things. First of all, we don't have a battery at all in here, so we're missing that ground to the battery. Electric start's out of the option. I believe I have another battery we'll throw in here. Not sure if it's the right size, but with this taken off, you're able to kind of get back here to the spark plug boot. We're gonna check if we're getting spark. Let's just see if this battery has any power. Okay, so that battery has power. All right, let's get a spark plug and check if we have spark. So, like I said, we're just running an additional spark plug now, and we're gonna touch it to the frame down here and just see if we're getting any spark. Definitely getting spark. We just learned a few things looking at this right now. Let me show you guys what I'm looking at. So when I picked up this scooter from the guy I purchased it from, he knew nothing about it. He never got it running, he never worked on it. So obviously there's a big gap in information, and I wasn't able to get some of the answers I was asking him. But we discovered a few important things. This might not be the same on what you're working on, but if you're looking at a 2-stroke scooter, it could apply. Basically, what I see is he has the oil tank in here, so I thought it wasn't pre-mixed. But going down, this is the oil pump right here, and it looks like he doesn't have the throttle cable line hooked up, which actually releases the oil. So it looks like he has an aftermarket throttle going here, which doesn't have the split off going to the oil pump anymore. So in this case, it's pre-mix and it is not running the oil pump. So now in that case, that means we have pre-mix in the tank, pre-mix in the carb, and it's probably really clunked up. So we have spark. We have fuel in the tank. Now, is it good fuel? That's up for your opinion. I'm gonna say no. but we're gonna try it anyways. I'm still down to send it for the first startup with the fuel that's in it, just because I want to see if it'll fire. But for now, let's see if we can check if we're getting fuel into the carb. We know there's fuel in the tank, but we're not certain the fuel is actually getting to the carb until we see if the carb's getting wet. We can't do that without removing the air box. All right, so one little tip here is we are going to make sure that it's getting fuel. The thing is that we don't want to dry out the cylinder because we don't know how long this bike's been sitting. So if we're not getting fuel and we have the bike powered on, it's gonna be throwing spark in the cylinder, which is burning any type of material that's away inside the cylinder, and it might not be getting more fuel with the oil in it. Therefore, your cylinder's not lubricated. So in checking if we have fuel, we're gonna shut off the bike and just kind of pump it with the kickstart, and we're gonna see if our hand's getting wet at all. Because these are mechanical fuel pumps, you don't need the bike being on to see if it's getting fuel into the carb. The petcock has an intake line, typically going to the carb or the intake manifold itself, and that is pulling the fuel through the petcock. So we are going to let some intake into the bike, which is going to pull the fuel through. Mix in and see. Yeah, we're not getting any fuel. So another way you can also do this without throwing spark and drying out the cylinder is shut your, you can turn the key on, shut your kill switch off, which kills the spark, because that's what the kill switch does. It kills all spark to the bike, but it still has power to your starter. So, oh yeah. Okay, our hand's getting wet now, so we're definitely getting fuel. I think this one's gonna be a really easy one. I think we're about to hear this thing fire up in a second. We didn't get fuel right there. I would have pulled the intake line to the manifold that runs to the petcock and then sucked it through myself, manually pulling the fuel through. And if you did have to pull it through and basically siphon the gas, what you would do is find the intake line that runs to your fuel petcock, which is gonna be under your tank, and you're gonna pop it off your intake line. Make sure it's not the one going to your carb that's a fuel line, because you'll suck fuel into your mouth. Take off the intake line and suck that through, and it should pull some fuel into the bowl on the carb. Otherwise, if it's still not starting and you're getting fuel into the bowl on your carb, you probably have a really clogged up carb down there, and it's just not pulling any fuel up the carb at all. A little bit here with my hand, but I think we're about to hear this thing fire up. Let's see, boys. Oh yeah. There she goes. There she goes. Oh. Oh yes. And they don't like to run too great without the airbox on. Wow, but that thing's, dude, that's an amazing first startup. This kickstand is so bent that the tire's touching the ground. We can't even rev it on the center stand. Oh yeah, she's definitely, carb is clogged. Carb is definitely clogged up. You could tell it's just putting, but the airbox does help a lot with these, so you need a little bit more restricted air. But it fired up. Now we're gonna work on actually getting it to run right. We're gonna take this carb off and clean this thing. This thing is absolutely filthy too. Maybe we should take the pressure washer to it today and clean this thing up a bit. So we got the Elite to fire, but it's obviously not running right. It's dying anytime you give it gas, which tells me the carb is probably clumped up. The main jet and everything going on in the carb is probably just destroyed. As you can see, this carb is just absolutely filthy. We need to go in here and clean this bike. I've not seen a carb this clumped up in a long time. We are definitely going to need to spend some time deep cleaning this carb, and this is just the beginning. This video I was really focused on trying to get this thing running, and I really want to go through and fully restore this thing and have a lot of plans for this Elite, but I didn't want to spend hours on pulling the motor out and cleaning every single bit of it in this video. So as you can see, this thing's just pretty dusty. It's definitely sat a while, and typical Las Vegas, it's in the desert, everything's dusty. So we soaked it down in some super clean, trying to break all of it loose, and this thing was just raining out grease. And obviously learned in this clip that the head mount GoPro is not a good angle. We power washed this thing and we've seen it starting to shine, the white wheels popping. And I took the power washer to a couple of the stickers that were on the bike. There's so many more, and we need to get these plastics cleaned up and freshen this bike up. But underneath all that dust was actually a very, very shiny bike. As you can just see, the gas tank and all these little bolts are so clean now. I'm impressed. removed the gas tank, and we are going to drain it into one of our spare. Yeah, here we go. All in all, this thing is clean. Like, the frame looks so good. There's no rust at all anywhere on the bike. But I'm assuming he wasn't running the oil pump for a reason, because he kept everything else stock. He could have just ran premix and kept everything plugged in, but it looks like he got a different throttle cable and everything for a single throttle cable, not to run the oil pump. Where I believe these have a Y off from the throttle, and that's why it has this little throttle lever here that would pull the oil pump. So I think I'm going to go ahead and delete it. I don't have a plug right now to put into the case, because these ones you actually need a special plug that will seal all the way down to the bottom of the case. I don't have one right now, so we'll do that when we actually restore this bike and get to work on it. But we will be removing the oil pump then. So, alright, new discovery when I just drained this tank out. So as I was draining it, I saw that everything was, that it was so clear. I don't think there was any two-stroke oil in the tank, so I don't think it was premix. So I'm assuming maybe whoever got it from that guy, maybe whoever got it from the guy who knew what he was doing, didn't know he didn't have the oil tank plugged in, and they put regular gas in here. Also, the oil tank had maybe an ounce of oil in it, and it was like motor oil. It was like literally used engine oil. It was pure black. I've never seen any two-stroke oil that looked like that, so I don't know what they had in there, but that wasn't hooked up, and I think it was just regular gas. So it would probably been a good idea if I just took the spark plug out and put a little oil in there, like I said, but we didn't run it that long. I think we're gonna be okay. But we're gonna get some premix now that we emptied out that gas tank, put it in here, and work on cleaning the carb and make sure this thing is running all good. We also got a lot more to clean up, like I said, but we'll worry about that later on. So we went through and stripped every single bit of this carb out. The main jet was insanely clogged up. I ended up taking a wire to it and breaking everything loose inside of the jet before I went and took these things and soaked them. And you can clearly see that this thing did have premix. In fact, at one point just soaking into, because there was so much oil gunked up in this carb. I don't know what oil they were using, but it was like super glue. So we threw it in the ultrasonic cleaner and let it soak. We got some premix now, so we're gonna fill up the tank and then we'll reassemble the carb and fire this baby up. Alright, it's time to get started on firing this bike up. We filled it up some fresh premix with some Motul 700 oil that I had around, and this was the best. I got the carb with one pass in the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm gonna go through and clean everything more, but the bike itself is shining good. It just had some couple stains in certain spots on the cases and the carb himself, but easy fix. We can do that later, and let's get to throwing this carb on. So we bolted in the carb, we threw in all our lines running to the fuel petcock, we threw our throttle cable in, and then we went ahead and plugged back in our auto choke up front. Here is the infamous petcock we've been talking about. So this is our intake line. This pretty much creates a seal in here, and when it sucks through, it will spin something in here which will allow the fuel to flow. We're going to suck through on this line, and it's going to pull some fuel through for us. There we go. We got fuel coming through, boys. So we know the petcock's good. Perfect. Now we can hook everything up. Fill up the carb by sucking some more air through here. There's no reason this thing should not run like an absolute champ now. With that being said, fire in the hole. Idle's too low. Oh man, this thing stinks. This thing needs to run and clear out for a bit. God damn. It is now time to throw on our cleaned up airbox. Lightly cleaned, like I said. We still got to go back and clean everything a little bit more when we go for the full restore on this. We got it running absolutely mint now, boys. Oh my gosh, thank you for crusty. It worked though. Oh my god, that's loud. It is time to clean up this bike even more. As you can see, it's shining bright. It looks good. A lot of the parts just shine right up with no problem, but there is some spots we are obviously going to go back and put some more elbow grease in. But I wanted to break down some of these stickers that are all over this bike. This bike shows a lot of history of this bike being a pits bike at a lot of drag races and everything, but it was time to clean it up. Went ahead and threw a new spark plug in because it had some cheap Autolite plug in it, and I love running the NGK BR8HS, and we went ahead and threw a fresh one of those in. Slapped all the plastics together, got everything thrown back together on the bike, and like I said, put in some work stripping down these stickers and hopefully making this thing shine like it did back in 1996. After peeling some of the stickers off, it looks pretty good. We still have to obviously clean up a lot of spots, but we definitely discovered some damage on the panels. I thought these panels were mint. Turns out they're just covered by some stickers. So got some big engraves here, but no cracks anywhere on the panels. So we might be able to just fix that up. Everything else turned out perfect. We definitely need a JDM tail light in here. That's why I didn't put the blinkers back in yet. We need a new seat cover and a few other goodies. But now that the thing runs mint, there's only one thing left to do. All right, we got definitely some issues going on with the back brake right now. I don't know what that is, but never heard that. We definitely got it running though, just like that, man. This thing hasn't been ran in years, and now we're riding it. Dude, tell me that it's not a rooster right there. What the hell? What the fuck is going on? I was trying to wait for them to come out so I could tell them their rooster got away, but they're not coming out. And then there's a dog on this street. Oh, 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 oh. What is going on? Following those steps, we were able to get this bike running. It runs, but now it needs the MOPBOYZ touch. It needs some MOPBOYZ work into this thing. So welcome back to the world, Honda Elite. And who knows truly how long you've been sitting. You are good now. That is going to do it for this video. We got our Honda Elite here running after sitting for a while, and hopefully this helps you get some of your scooters started, or maybe you're trying to buy a cheap project scooter and it's not running currently and you want to get it running. So check those few things, and you guys will definitely see more of this Honda Elite coming soon, because we are still going to completely redo this. That's why I didn't go fully into the cleaning process yet. That's gonna do it for this one. I will see you guys in the next video.